Well, I did not plan on hopping on to do this because we haven't done a show in a while, and I did not plan on hopping on to do this on a Friday night for sure. But when a blockbuster trade like this goes down
Yes, sir.
involving the Knicks, it's very much something we need to discuss. So I'm glad we're here. Oh, you could have put on like a better shirt. You had to have the wife beater on. Really, right now?
I beat my wife. What can you say?
What are we doing right now?
Throw the muscles.
So look, it's one of the OGs of the show back.
Yes, sir.
Craig is here. He looks like he's sick, or you have COVID or something, dude. What's going on?
I don't want you to show my nips on the live.
Nipsey Russell here.
Yo,
I'm like, what are we doing?
This is the craziest trade I've ever seen. I don't like it. I'm sorry.
Wow.
Well, we didn't get into it, but okay, you could start us off.
I don't like it.
Okay, why don't you like it?
Because
okay.
you know I'm a trade whore, right?
You are, yes, it's true.
Yeah,
I thought you
right?
love it.
But you're giving up shooting, right? Right? Essentially, you're giving up shooting in a league full of shooting for Towns. I get it. I'm not trying to be that guy. But I'm not feeling it. I don't know why. I'm not feeling it. I'm sorry.
Well, I've gone back and forth on this one for years. When it comes to this trade, and you guys know that.
Yeah,
I'm a huge fan of the kid's talent. I always have been. When he's engaged, he's one of the best. You can say when he's engaged, probably one of the best 10 players in the league, especially from that position. From that position, he's top 5. But I mean, that's the problem. He has a tendency to be aloof at times. He disappears. He really needs someone to need playing defense.
He's light skinned.
Maybe that's part of it. Possibly the light skinness.
Hey, infectious every once in a while.
Yeah, but it's Craig. It's weird because I remember you and I talking before the draft, and we really wanted Towns.
Yeah,
and obviously we wound up getting Porzingis, so it's just weird how things work out, right? Like now we have him. We just traded for him, and Porzingis is in Boston, and just a really strange thing. But on paper, it's a good move.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this before we went live a little bit. That on paper makes a lot of sense. He's a good fit. Especially his ability to hit the jump shot. You can do pick and roll now with him and Jalen Brunson, and that's almost impossible to stop. So on paper, it's a very good move. But I don't know, man. Like, I'm hoping this motivates him. That's my hope, that, he's from the area. He grew up in New Jersey. He's from the area. He's always proclaimed he was a Knicks fan growing up. So I'm hoping that this motivates him and we get the best version of him. Because if we do, the Knicks are a title contender. I mean, that's people thought they could have been beforehand, but if this works out, they're definitely a title contender. So, my old boy Phil, we did broadcasting class together. What's up, Phil? Nice to see you, man. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting thing to follow and see how this plays out. But it does address at least we were talking before about the backup center position. Well, I guess this addresses that in a way, right? Like, there we go. So Ty, man, you've probably been the more level-headed one on this guy from the beginning. So go ahead, and what do you think now that it appears at least that he's definitely a New York Knick? Give
me 2 seconds. I gotta put a shirt on so I can make this more appropriate. Okay. Right? Give me a second.
Please cover yourself up, Craig.
All right, sit. Give me 2 seconds.
No blinding edifice over here. We don't need this. But no, talking about Towns, what did you call that one player, that baseball player? Was it a football player? You said, call him just the tip? Is that what you called him?
Yes, I said Kirk Cousins, the quarterback. Yes.
Hey, that don't mean you do a tip hotline and you tip off the police. We're not talking about those kind of tips. Just to let people know, tippy toe around. We're not talking about that kind of tip either. But when thinking about Karl Anthony Towns, it is that tease, literally, of a player that you could see the high potential that he offers. We know the talent's there. One of the maybe the best 3-point shooting big we've ever seen. Clearly, he wanted that title. These are things that he's, pronounced himself to be. But it's always been about the fact that he has been a little underwhelming at times. He kind of disappears. Which, I mean, if you're thinking about, apples to apples, oranges to oranges, the same has been said about Julius Randle, and Knicks fans really wanted him back on this team this year because, albeit very consistent during the regular season, it has always been the postseason that has been the crux of Julius Randle. The same has been said about Karl Anthony Towns, with him being that player that you just don't know what you're going to get mentally most of the time. That's where we wonder about him is mentally, because it's not about the game. Clearly, he's a 20-10 guy every night. He's going to stretch the defense with his shooting. When engaged, he is an absolute monster. When not engaged, he's a kitty cat. No pun on the name, but he is like a kitty, not fully engaged as far as, in the game. Will a player like Brunson get him activated every night and making sure that he's getting the ball fed in the right position? Will Thibodeau being the second time around for this, will this be a coach that knows how to motivate this guy and get out of him what he may have not gotten out of him in Minnesota? Because you really want Karl Anthony Towns to be a mature player. That's what you're looking for in him. We hope that he's at this point now where he's actually gotten mature, understanding the element of New York. That this is not comedy. This is not for jokes. They have championship aspirations, and many believe prior to Julius now getting traded that Julius was the missing link from last season. That if we had Julius, is what you hear. If we had Julius Randle, we were either going to maybe push Boston to 7. Some believe maybe even go to the finals and perhaps be able to win because of how great the Knicks have been playing, needing that extra guy. This guy's a lot of extra guy. I mean, I think if you're going to say who's the better player, statistically, we can, say that they're pretty much the same guys. But the one thing I've always felt about Jalen Brunson, and you got to always see that about this team, it's always about fit, seamless fit. That's what the Knicks have been really doing with this team, building around Jalen Brunson, having the pieces that seemingly seamlessly fit around him that works. And what definitely would work was a low post player, someone who can play in the paint, who can ease that up. Because it's better that he played with a down low big as opposed to playing with a wing who needs the ball. So now you have some snipers on the Knicks. You are losing a little bit defensively, clearly, but I'm more than sure what we're going to see is that the hopes that Mitchell Robinson, if he's not included in this package, that he comes back healthy. And he will move Towns probably to the 4. Towns will play the 4, Mitch will play the 5. And now you have the spacing. Like, there's going to be a lot of room to operate for Jalen Brunson. I think that's might be the one thing that people are not seeing, that if Karl Anthony Towns brings out the 5 guy out of the paint, because you got to guard him from shooting because he's going to kill you outside.
Yeah.
That is completely an easy pass lane. You don't even got to pay the MTA. That's just going. You're just going straight through. That's a huge lane now. So now, think about it. Watching a guy like Jalen Brunson, who may be considered, in my opinion, he's at least a top 5 ISO player in the league. He might be top 3.
Yeah.
To be a buck. ISO wise, Kyrie, Jalen. That's kind of what you look at when you think about an ISO player. I mean, they're undersized, so you don't tend to think that much about those guys that way. But Jalen Brunson is a deadly player. He's one of the top 5 guys in the league as far as I'm concerned, as far as talent-wise. I think he's a top 5. Now you've added a guy potentially, if when engaged, is right there to be a top 5 player also. So the Knicks have improved. It's just whether or not you can get all the juice out of the orange from Karl Anthony Towns. I mean, on paper, this is not even a question mark. It's a better fit. It's just really whether or not Karl Anthony Towns is a fit for New York and understands the landscape. Because if he does, the Knicks are title contenders. You might have questioned it before, but with him engaged, there's no question about whether the Knicks got talent now. It's whether you got the tenacity and the mindset to win. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, and Craig, you mentioned they lose shooting, but do they really? I mean, Towns can hit the three, right? So I understand what you're saying.
Damn it, also.
Yeah, yeah. So I understand what you're saying. I think yes, like when they were making these moves, we all were thinking like, why are they adding these veteran players? These like the Shamits of the world and those guys. Why are they adding them? And now
This
it's
is it.
pretty
This is the reason.
obvious.
This is
Yes,
very obvious. Yeah, I
yes,
agree. I agree.
yeah.
I'm not gonna
Obvious.
argue. I
Yeah.
agree.
So, no, I mean it. I hear you what you're saying too. Dante hits huge shots for us last year. He was fantastic the whole year. He kind of came of age as a star. He's proved he could be a starting two guard in the league. I think, by the season last season that he had. So it is a big loss. He's the one I'm lamenting more than. Don't get me wrong. I had a love hate with Julius myself, but I was also interested to see how he was going to come back this year and how he was going to play and what they were going to do. I thought that was going to be one of the early storylines of the season is how he was going to come back. And now, I mean, we don't need to worry about that. It's interesting though to me from Minnesota's side. Like I understand
Could it be their relationship with Rojas?
I was thinking maybe something with him and Edwards.
Mm.
Or maybe Towns kind of he's been kind of deferential to him, but I think he Towns has always been kind of that passive aggressive guy. Like, yeah, we're cool and ha ha ha, I'll joke with you in public, but behind the scenes, he was probably like, dude, I was doing this long before you came here. So, and there's always when you're athletes, obviously athletes at this level, there's always that competitive nature. And when you're two high level athletes who are very good at their job, each one of them probably want the label of this is my team. And Edwards' personality was just not going to allow that to happen anymore. So even though efficiency wise, Towns probably is the better option because Edwards can take some crazy shots.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when it comes to being a dynamic player, Edwards is on a ridiculous level and he's just getting better. So it's going to be interesting to see from Minnesota's side how Randle fits in there.
Weird.
Like I was trying to think about how that was going to play out. As soon as I heard the trade, I started thinking the Knicks, and then I started thinking, well, I wonder how Julius is going to fit it over there. He's kind of in the same situation, and in my mind, like he has a dominant ISO player in Edwards, right? You have a defensive center in Gobert, like he had here with Robinson, and so it's going to be an interesting fit to see how he plays and how they deploy him, but.
You know what I'm wondering too? It does make me question because Julius is technically like an expiring in a way where he's coming.
Yeah.
This would give Minnesota a lot of cap relief. They get from underneath cap. Julius leaves. Obviously, say he doesn't stay, but it also brings up the question mark. I mean, it's a two coin. When I think about Dante, maybe Dante knows that he's going to actually get demoted because clearly Bridges is the guy that they brought in. That's probably his replacement killer. So. Probably Dante wanted to move on because he knows he's going to get a limited role after being the definitive starter last year. He beat out, who was it, Grimes, I guess, initially when he came on. He got the full-time job. He's proven in the playoffs. He's very clutch, had great moments, huge moments. And now we're looking at whether or not Bridges is now probably going to be the starter. Most people haven't penciled it at the two. Dante's getting demoted. So you can understand maybe from his point of like, well, I had a big role here. Now you're going to send me to the bench, and now I'm playing behind someone, so that could be an ego thing. And the second thing is maybe Julius is not as healthy as people think. We hear in the little bit of the rumbles of him not being ready for camp. We also hear in the rumbles that maybe he won't be starting the season. We don't know any of these things right now. But at the same sense, maybe this is why this became a pivot move for the Knicks, although they've been always rumored with Karl Anthony Towns for the longest. What health level is Julius Randle at is a big question. And then also, like you said, in Minnesota, it's not an ideal fit, nor was Cat. So it should be interesting to see where this goes.
Yeah. Go ahead, Greg.
There's a lot here, right? Like, you're moving Randle, you're moving DiVincenzo, right? It's I mean, essentially the trade is done. I can't argue that. But it's
Yeah,
just
they
like
said they're gonna have to get a third team involved, but
It's not.
yeah,
it's done. Like it's just like, what do you do? And again, you know, I'm a big trade whore. I get it. I I'm just trying to understand the thought process behind it. Like this team still without Robinson still could have been a top three team in the Eastern Conference without him. With DiVincenzo as a spot up shooter, he can create off the dribble. Even with Randall, this team, like I'm not arguing against the trade. I'm just trying to like, to me, this is it, right? This is the move that they're trying to
of
make. Like,
course he's gonna be making a 35% of their salary cap. He's immediately the highest paid player in Knicks history just by doing the trade.
Absolutely.
So of
and please,
course this is
bear,
the move. Like I
and
thought, I thought Bridges was the move.
I thought, and
But
please
no,
bear with me. And you know how much I love the Knicks making trades. I get it. I'm not trying to, but why? Like, what's the why behind it? Right? Like,
well, yeah, I'm sure all that's going to come out, right? I'm sure we're going to find out the real reasons why this trade happened, especially nowadays with social media. Guys get leaked stuff all the time. We're going to find out the stuff that's probably nowhere near being true, and we're going to find the stuff that's really true, and then we're going to have to come to the middle somehow and say, okay, this is what really happened. Like this is the truth
we
in the
got the,
middle.
but just bear with me here. This is where I put my tinfoil box
Hat on.
molder conspiratorial hat on, right? You got Brunson, you got Bridges, you got Hart. I'm assuming that the front office had to come to all three of these guys and be like, "Are you okay with trading your boy Ginger Jordan?" Right? Like someone of those three had to say, "You know what? Let's do it." Right? I mean, am I over the top on this?
Well, I think also you look at Archie. What was his name?
Archidiakono.
Archie Diacono. He was Jalen's best friend.
Yeah, yeah.
Best friend. He got traded twice, I think. So and cut. So you know you got to wonder
Someone
who.
of those three players had to say, "You know what? We're good." Is that fair to
Okay,
say?
Well, I
but
go ahead, Eric, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was going
Go
to
ahead.
say, but I'm going to pull a Nino Brown line. Friends is friends. This is business, right?
Yes,
There
yes,
you go.
yes.
So that on paper, like I said, on paper, the Knicks got a lot better. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
coach just brought up a good point. Now there's playing time not only for Kolek to play as the backup
True,
point guard because McBride's role gets elevated now. He's going to be the
true.
first guard off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
So
True.
there's, and this is kind of what I was talking about to John today when he asked, we worried about the center position. And I said, the Knicks have invested draft capital, money, time in these picks that they're taking.
Yeah.
Right. So, you have to have cheap, I hate to put it this way, but you have to have cheap labor in the NBA to run a successful team because you need the bulk of their salary caps can be taken by your best players. So now you have Hart just signed an extension, right? Brunson just signed an extension. Towns makes the supermax.
You got Anunoby.
Bridget Ananobi, right, just signed an extension. So they're putting all they're lumping the top and saying, okay, this is our core now. These are our big money guys. We need some cheap labor to fill out the bench, and that's essentially what they're doing. Dante, I mean, he signed a nice contract, but he was going to be, I'm sure, after last season when he's eligible, he's going to be due for a raise, right? So there's the financial side of this as well, and I just think, we're seeing now that for the first time in my Knick fandom career, we're seeing them actually put value in the youth that they're drafting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I was upset they traded RJ Barrett, they did develop him into the player he became, that they were able to trade him, right? Same thing with Emmanuel Quickly. They had developed him to the player he became, so they were able to trade him for something of value. They're doing it the right way. And as hard as that is for me, as hard as that sounds coming out of my mouth, it was even harder for me to say because you guys know I have picked on this franchise for such a long time.
Exactly.
So it sounds good. Like it really seems like they're doing the right thing now.
This is it. This is the move, right? They are the top two team. They're the top. I'm sorry. They are 1 and 2, possibly the top team in the Eastern Conference.
I think they're top 4.
even with Towns, really.
Yeah, because I still wouldn't put them over Boston. I still think, again, if everyone's healthy,
Hmm.
I think having Embiid in that group is going to be, they're going to be a tough team. The Knicks, though, yeah, they're in that group. I'm not saying they're not in the group. They're definitely in the group.
Yeah.
And would I be shocked if they won the Eastern Conference? Not at all. I wouldn't be shocked at all if they won the Eastern Conference. But I would still put those two teams ahead of them because I feel like Embiid is the best player of the bunch, in my opinion. And Boston they just won it. Like they have the experience now of winning a championship. So that's why I put them 1-2.
I would only put Boston ahead of the Knicks simply out of respect for them being champs. They did have the high-ranking defense, high-ranking offense is like an anomaly. That team from the past season. I think it's hard to you always got to give respect to the champs. That's just what it is. After that, I just think every team has a question mark. Sometimes it's a huge question mark, especially when it's their major talent. When we look at Embiid, it's always the health issue. We also look at the fact that they're bringing in Paul George, not the most seamless fit also, in my opinion. I think he's a guy who needs the ball. I think Maxey needs the ball. Will Embiid last the whole season? Probably not. How much do you bubble wrap him? All question marks there. Milwaukee, I don't know what it is that they're doing in Milwaukee. Oh, we got somebody else coming in. The resident haters coming in. I'm gonna let this guy. I'm just gonna bring this guy in because I think he has something to say. Let's just let him jump in.
What the hell is going on?
I can see the energy. Let's just let him come in.
This is insane. Are you serious with this today?
It wasn't Aiden.
I need a mute button. Hold on.
Huge. So huge today. This is insane. What do we think? I mean, are we pleased? Are we like completely pleased? Ty's pleased. I don't even have to ask Ty.
No. I'm not. No. Because you know what? All respect to Julius, I'm not the biggest kitty cat fan. You take that with your pause and get a pause button on that. But no, yeah. I'm not. I've always been, because Eric and Craig both, they loved Towns as an idea coming to the Knicks during the draft, and I was more or less one of those people. I said, I'm good with KP. I was good with KP. I always liked him. I know me and Eric have gone back and forth who's a better player, and he's always thought Towns. And I was like, it was just something about KP. He knew how to play in New York. Right. I don't think he's wrong still. I think he still was that dude in New York who just embraced the whole thing. My concerns on why I didn't put Cat first in New York is because of the same concerns people have now. Do you mentally have the chops to play here under the scrutiny?
Yeah.
That's a big question for a guy of his size who's going to be the best player or considered the best player in your team. I always question that. So even with Randle, as much as I have question marks about Randle, I don't think I'm more comfortable with Towns right now. I'm not that much comfortable because until I see it actually play out that he comes in, he's a whole monster. There's some dogs. I mean, Julius is a dog at the end of the day. He might be a goofy dog, but he's a dog at the end of the day. You never question his toughness, whether he wanted to win, the anger the relentlessness he played with, sometimes a little out of control. Whereas I've watched Karl Anthony Towns and we've heard about the voice changes. If you follow that whole thing about him, he's got different personalities depending on who's microphoning him.
Yeah.
Those kind of things always make me feel a little weird and worried about which guy was in here. Which guy
is goofy. That to me is just goofy, flat out. I don't know. Mitch is goofy sometimes as well in a different way. This is a little light in the loafers way instead. But I mean, but beyond that, I mean, who are you playing? Are you playing Hart now in the starting five? Or are you playing a
Here we go. I was waiting for John's comments about the structure of the starting five.
Yeah. What do you want to play?
Yeah.
You playing OG at the power forward? You keep
no, they're gonna probably go
at the power forward.
They're probably in the start. They're probably gonna play Towns and Achua, but when Mitch comes back, Towns is going to slide to the 4. That's what they're going to do. Yeah, I mean, he can
And then
play.
you got Sims coming off the bench as
Tremendous outside shooter, so it's not fit-wise. It's not a terrible thing to play him at the 4. It could be your stretch 4. Yeah.
And is it a given now that they're signing Morris?
Well,
we're lacking bigs at this point. You know,
they now have a roster spot open because they did a 2-for-1.
Yeah, they had a 1 roster spot anyway that they could have used. Now they got 2 roster spots open.
Yeah, like we were kind of discussing that as well. We were saying that it makes sense now that they picked up someone like Shamet, and that they signed Morris.
Yeah,
signing those kind of veterans makes sense. If you're a team that feels it's ready to challenge for a championship, you want to bring in veteran talent. 2 guys who can shoot. They both can shoot. Two good scorers.
Yeah.
If you're losing Dante, here you go. You need to bring someone to slide in, right? So that part bothers me the most, the Dante thing. I did not see that coming.
Would you have rather have been Deuce?
Yeah.
Maybe. I think defensively, Deuce is younger, and I think he has the bigger defensive upside. So I'm not surprised he didn't go, because at the end of the day, this is a Tom Thibodeau team.
And he's cheaper now. He's on the cheapest contract.
Cheaper, right?
Great deal he's on. I just think, like I said, I think the thought also is whether or not Dante wanted out too. I mean, we got to consider that he may not want to play behind someone, after having a great year, and then figuring, why should I go sit when this guy's coming in? I mean, we always look at the brotherhood of Villanova, but that don't make those guys not competitive.
Sure.
We hear the story about them fighting, and they're like brothers, but they fought in practice. They threw weights at each other. This is what it is. I mean, that's not like saying he wants to just sit there and give Bridges his job, because that's really what it was coming down to, that he was probably going to sit if you were to really put together the regular 5 of Mitch, Julius Randle at the time, obviously, OG, Bridges, and Brunson. Dante's not starting ahead of Bridges.
He came here to be a backup, though, in the first place. So now, do you expect that you're definitely a starter just because you had a good year? And I mean, if you look at the stats, it was 15 points a game. You weren't lighting the world on fire either.
Look at his stats when the injuries happened, though. That's the part. I think it bumped up to like 18 or something like that. Which, I mean, that's that's a starting 2 guard in the NBA.
Yeah,
that's so, and
I don't expect over 20 from Bridges though, so I think you got an improvement on that end.
Well, you got a taller defender. You got all the makings of. I mean, you know how I'm about, and I know Craig agrees with this because he loves the Phil Jackson philosophy of having taller players. When you got these undersized guys, and not saying Dante, I'm a fan of Dante DiVincenzo, so big up to him. But it's more so, look at the mismatch that can happen when you have you have all those guys. The switchability now. You got 2 of the killer wings. You probably got the 2 best wings besides
best wing duo in the league.
You can't mess with the perimeter of the Knicks now. So you're asking yourself this question about Dante, and like I said, disrespecting. Is he replaceable? The answer is yes. And you always get a Karl Anthony Towns? No. That's what your question is, And like I said, all the bias aside, what we don't like about Karl Anthony Towns, what we question about Karl Anthony Towns, he's still one of the top talents in the NBA, period. It's not even close. You can't argue him down a ladder. The thing you argue about him is mentality-wise. Will this guy be at the peak of who he is talent? It's all
that's not the only thing, though. It's also history. Him and Tibbs have history. And it didn't work out the first time, man. I feel like he was part of the reason why Tibbs had to leave town. So now, I mean, you already know that this happened one time. Do you want to blame that on Jimmy Butler there in Minnesota, that he was the one who, kept pushing people? I think it didn't work the first time. Is it going to work again?
I think they turned defenses, though, from what I understand, with that whole situation.
I think
saying you're good with everything and being on the court together and listen to Bob Barker over there, rah.
I mean, this was what?
Different.
How many? This was what, 5 years ago?
Longer. Okay. Was it 5? Maybe 6. Because
you would
Tips
hope
out for 2 years. Tips out for 2 years after getting.
You would hope, right? You would just hope that someone at 22, someone at 28 is more mature than someone at 22. And you would hope with the stuff that Towns has been through in Minnesota, because let's be honest, even since Tibbs left, that's been a very strange ride for him. You would hope that all of that is put behind him. And I know for sure, since Tibbs has left that situation, he's even said, I didn't handle it the best.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's been the one who said, you know, he was a fantastic player, did what I asked. So there has been kind of a reconciliation from that side of it. And I have to imagine that they checked with his agent at least, or somebody be like, yo, is he going to be good with this trade if we pull the trigger here? I mean, is he going to come and not complain? I've been reading things on Twitter. They were saying like he's still processing it. Obviously, it's a shock. They said he had no idea that it was coming. That Towns is blindsided by it as well.
Is he happy?
Well, that's what they mean. Like he's still processing. He's in shock, so he's still trying to process everything.
I don't like that.
I also have to think. Well, I have to think from a. Well, I said this before. I have to think from a standpoint of, coming home. Right? He's another guy, like we said before. Is from this area. Grew up in New Jersey. All that stuff.
Who else grew up in New Jersey?
What?
Who else grew up in New Jersey?
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yep. Brunson did as well. So
let's knock on that door for a little bit.
Because
you got to think about this. And the reason I'm knocking on that door is not because I'm looking at it like, oh, big conspiracy. But Brunson took a pay cut for a damn good reason. People can say, oh, he wanted to help his teammates out or whatever. He did, but Brunson also probably had some insight on what the Knicks were trying to do if he was willing to take the pay cut. Because they had to have had this lined up at some point in time to know. Karl Anthony Towns, I mean, granted, who was his agent? Come on, we all know the story. We all know the connect. Brunson doesn't concede to take that money less for Julius Randle. I'm sorry. He just
I don't think Julius is going to take a pay cut.
No. And Julius probably wasn't. So this is where we had to stand. So Erica knows we talked maybe it was like a week ago. We talked about it. I said, I talked to all you guys about it. I said, we are reaching an Emmanuel Quickly type of situation with the Knicks, with Julius Randle.
All right.
You may have to, but we thought it would go longer. We said maybe half season, maybe full season, maybe off season. But we said there's going to come a time where they're going to question whether or not they're willing to pay him that kind of money because he's not willing to take a pay cut. IQ went through the same thing. He was not willing to take a pay cut. Are you going to max out a player who has routinely for 3 years, 3 years or 2 years, I should say. Well, not 3 years. He's had questionable times, whether it was in the regular season, 1 year after the MIP. It was a weird time with him. We move on. Both playoff times, but it's not his fault, but he has just been injured. So now you're going to say, am I maxing or giving this guy near max money to cap you out for the rest of his career because you can no longer do anything else once you give him those monies? If he's not willing to concede the discount, and I told Eric, I said, they're setting it up that he has to fall on his sword because your best player took a discount. So they're going to say, you need to take a discount now.
It sounds like Bridges is willing to take a discount.
So now you can spend that. And we talked about the spin doctor is he wasn't willing to take less. He wanted all of his money. So now we had to boot him out for a player who's already established, who has a reputation. I mean, I don't know if it's better than Julius, but I'm just saying they feel like they can count on Karl Anthony Towns to at least be healthy enough, maybe consistent enough, maybe show up enough. He's not injured. He doesn't have these huge, terrible injuries every year. You know, I mean, he could play center. That's the one thing I wanted to bring up when we talk about the duality of that kind of player.
I'd really like him to accept playing center.
If he can play five, now we get back to a small ball five. He technically would be an awesome small ball five player because you got a guy who now is deadly from outside. So there's no question about it. Now you got transition movement. You know, he can operate, although I always find it to be the most clumsy moves, but he does make the basket. But he can operate from the top of the key off the dribble.
Yeah.
You know, he's
Yeah,
got
it's
a
not
bag.
pretty, but it works.
It's ugly as hell to watch, but you know what? When you make classes, it does work. And now you got a guy who is is he probably 40% from 3-point range?
Yeah.
Consistently. Julius dipped. Julius had that one anomaly season where he hit that 40% at MIT, and it was
40?
going after that. We never saw that. He's like a sub, what is he, 32, 33% career? You know, we're not talking about a guy who's going to knock down a bunch of shots, but Karl Anthony Towns, probably his percentage, I'm just going to go off the cuff. He
shot 42% from 3 last year. He's a 40% 3-point shooter for his career.
Yeah, see? That's
How
it.
many is he putting up a
7
game,
feet
Eric?
tall.
How many is he putting up a game?
5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, he's
what was
he's
the
a better
pick?
player. Don't get me wrong. He
What?
is the better player.
What pick did we give up?
It's a first rounder. I don't know.
Yeah,
when.
but was it Detroit's? Was
Detroit.
it
It was
the
Detroit.
Bucks? Was it ours?
No, it's Detroit's. Detroit's first round.
Detroit's? Well, that's a good pick.
Well,
Are we
look.
sure?
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
Detroit.
Detroit. Yep. Popper said Detroit. Yes.
So the Detroit pick was probably never going to relay because
Right.
they have to be great some year, and I don't. Do you believe that? I don't believe that's ever going to
No,
happen.
but this year they will be watched. This will be.
Of course. You know, it's Nick Luck. They're probably gonna win 75 games this year.
Oh.
But, I mean, you think about that. What pick outside you? That's Karl Anthony Towns, though.
Yeah.
You're gonna give that pick if somebody said, "Well, are you gonna hold on to the Detroit pick to keep Karl Anthony to not get Karl Anthony Towns?"
And that's not going to be a sticker.
Not.
homie.
It's right now we're not in the pick game. All the picks are in. You know, as that saying goes. All the picks are in. The Knicks are all in for a title. So
I
you're
just
not.
wanted to share this, guys. So if you can see it on the screen, this is Towns' Twitter account, and this was his response when the trade went down. Just 3 dots. That's it.
Well, he wants it.
Really?
Yes.
That's
So-
not. That's
No, it's not. It's not good or bad. It's just shock, right? Like he's speechless.
I don't
But
know.
you know what? Look, let's keep it a bit.
I'm already. That doesn't thrill me at all.
Look,
Well,
let's keep
It,
it a
it
bit.
sounds like he's complacent about.
I don't
it.
think. I think he is like he can't believe he getting out of that damn cold ass weather and coming to New York because you know what?
Minnesota's miserable. You ever been to Minnesota?
Who? No, and don't
I've been
blame
to
on it.
Minnesota. Minnesota is the third circle of frozen hell, bro.
Isn't that where Argo is? Argo is filmed in
You ain't
Minnesota.
felt cold since you've been in Minnesota in March. It
I mean,
is
It's
miserable.
I have
Fargo's.
friends who live there, and they tell me plenty. And it's
Oh
yes,
my God, it's
very
miserable.
cold.
He's
I
Dominican.
almost froze on the way back from my hotel because I thought I could make it from the Mall of the America back to my hotel without getting a cab because the cab wasn't coming. And we started off in the snow, and I flagged a dude down in the middle of the street to get me back to the hotel, which was only about a mile away. I thought I was going to freeze to death. I understand him getting out of Minnesota.
He wants the hell out of it. I'm just saying, I think the dots is probably, like Eric said, shocked. Probably shocked that he's coming home. I mean, technically what they consider home. Nobody claiming New Jersey like that. So he's New York.
Yeah.
You know, so he was a Knick fan, obviously, from what he says growing up. He's closer to his father now, you know. I think also when you think about the home cooking, I mean, respectfully, his mom passed away during that time. I think that also probably has something to do with his relationship with Tibbs also, the maturity when you lose people and, you know, you got to grow up a little bit, you know, and start realizing not every criticism of you was meant in a malicious way. You know, sometimes people want the best for you, and then you finally see it after a while. I'm thinking that I'm not his biggest fan, but I got to give him a chance. I mean, he's right now the staple of the Knicks in a lot of ways. You know, you can now dump it down to this guy and get easy baskets.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of off of Jalen Brunson, who I still think is the best player on the Knicks. I know Tyron's got the most talent. I still rock with Brunson. But Brunson's job just got a hell of a lot easier. Because imagine you're Brunson, a guy who likes to pat the rock a lot, you know, a great ISO player, and now you're saying, what happens when I give up the ball? See, that's what I always say. It's the off-ball action you always got to worry about with these players. Brunson gives up the ball to Julius. What is Brunson doing now?
Nothing.
Watching? Because he has to watch because Julius
Finding a corner to stand in.
Yeah. So
what can he do?
Yeah. So now when you drop it down to Towns, now you got a guy who can pass out of the post. You got a guy who has post moves. Now all of a sudden you can line up on the perimeter.
Mm-hmm.
He's getting doubled. Let's
Right.
just get that out of the way. Sometimes Julius didn't get doubles. Some guys just knew how to hit him on the right angle or come late with the double, and he gets confused. Now you got a guy who's taller, who has what I think is a better IQ for the game. And
Same
now
here.
all of a sudden you're putting snipers? Are you serious? You got a guy who can pass out of the post, and every guy outside on the perimeter is a 40% 3-point shooter?
I mean,
It's murder. You're not
yes.
guarding.
They need to. There's going to have to be decisions made in the structure of how they do things. I think you want to maximize what these guys do well,
Yeah.
and I think that we saw Brunson. He's very good inside, but we also have seen him in games where he's gotten kind of flustered.
Yeah.
Not being able to get the shot that he wanted inside.
Mhm.
So, having Towns there when Randle was there, teams were much more likely to give him the shot because they, he can hit them, but it wasn't his wasn't his forte. This guy you can't sag off of. You have to play up on him. So he should have more room to operate in the paint, especially if Towns is at center. When he plays minutes at center, that should definitely be
That's where we need
the
him.
middle for him.
We need him to accept that role.
So, I think it's funny you say that, John, because I honestly do think he was better. He's better at center. He can play power forward, but I do think he's better at center. So we're gonna see how, like I said, there's a lot of decisions that have to be made, how they're gonna deploy these guys and how they're going to play now. Because they had one way set up, and now with a guy like him who's such a good offensive player, you gotta chuck that all. Just chuck it now and you start from scratch and try to rebuild an offense with Towns as more of a centerpiece.
So
I think
Towns at the 5, so we're thinking OG at the 4. We're thinking Bridges at the 3.
What about Achua at the 4?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like you could go with Achua at the 4. You could do that.
And then you've got Payne or Kolek coming off the bench as your point guard. You've got Deuce. You've got Hart. Let's say you sign Morris as your power forward, and you've got Mitch.
Unless they go with Hart at the 4.
Well, that could be too. I mean,
Look,
or Hart can play the 3 into the 4 and play 48 minutes a game again.
Well, we got into a talk, a couple of days ago, I think it was, about we were talking about production-wise, and we talked about the playoffs and what Josh Hart did in the playoffs.
Sick.
And if Julius Randle did that any year, Knicks fans would be off of him. They wouldn't even be arguing about him. Because literally what he did was he gave you a double-double every damn night. It wasn't the high point value, but we have not seen a version of Julius that we can say definitively in the postseason he's giving you X, Y, Z. It's always been choppy, confusing. We don't know. Whereas if
he's always injured too. He's been injured in every playoff series that we've ever had.
Yep. So now you got a guy like Josh Hart. He had some big damn shots. When people want to talk about him,
he did, boy.
He was a huge. I mean, we talk about Dante.
He's a clutch shooter.
But Josh Hart was like a menace to society against any squad that we played, because that dude. I don't, like I said, I never know what he does great. I just know it gets done. That's the only thing I can say about him.
He's a Swiss Army knife. You know what I mean? Whatever you need at what point in time, get some rug burn, on the floor, at the hoop, get the rebound, do something crazy. Just, he's in there. He's there.
It's going to be very, I'm liking, G's a little weird. Sometimes I don't know what position OG really plays, but if I'm Tom Thibodeau, if I'm thinking like Tom Thibodeau, I'm thinking Cat's going to be the 5, that OG's going to be the 4, Bridges is going to be the 3. He probably will put one at the 1, obviously, and Josh Hart might be the 2 guard because of the defense. That could be very much a Tom Thibodeau type of team worries nothing about offense whatsoever. Figuring the two big guys that are going to do most of the scoring is going to be Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. And Karl playing the 5 has a great advantage at the 5
I
because
think so.
you don't have any tall guys he got to really worry about like that throughout the whole league. And then if you're that tall, he can take you out to the 3-point line, and he's going to tire out any 5. So that's me thinking Tom Thibodeau wise. I would think that that's probably his prize lineup. You have 2 great defenders on the wing. You have a shooting guard who you definitely know is a hellified rebounder. You know, you have if OG can give you like 9 or 10 boards, I think he'll go with that lineup because that's
definitely the option. That's
you need
the
OG
option.
to be a better rebounder. If OG becomes a better rebounder, him at the 4 makes a lot of sense. But he's got to be a better rebounder.
Well, how many was he averaging a night?
Not enough.
Not enough. I think he's like 5 or 6 at the most. Maybe 5.
It was that good, if I'm being honest.
Really?
He's not a great rebounder.
Okay. Hart's a great rebounder.
Hart is the Dennis Rodman of guards. That's
it's great.
Dennis Rodman of guards.
How many spots on the floor? You're like, there he is. There he is again.
4 rebounds.
4.
Crazy.
See, he's got to come.
4 rebounds, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking like, who else could be a 2 guard?
I feel like the Achua is the right guy to put in that lineup. I feel like you put him in there to just get rebounds and do dirty work. I mean, I think he becomes your starter. I think you're better off that way. I think you leave our guys at the wings, you leave Bridges and OG at the wings, and let Achua do all the crap down low.
You can. It's interesting though when you think about it because. Wow, this just changes things because
I also wonder.
I think you line up better against Boston this way too.
Oh, I definitely believe that. I agree with that. What are you about to say, E?
I just to say I also wonder about the other guy they drafted, Porty. I just wonder. I mean,
you think they got paid?
He was playing professionally in Australia, right? Like that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
So I wonder how physically, I don't know skill-wise how he would fit, but I wonder if physically they're just thinking, well, you know, he's a professional already. He played in the professional leagues in Australia. If we need to throw him in there, we'll throw him in there. Now, that doesn't mean – I'm just trying to think how they're going about it. I know Marcus Morris is really more of a small forward to me than a power forward. He can play power forward, but I feel like he's more of a small – especially his body. He's only about 218, 220, which really isn't that big.
In a pinch?
No, in a pinch, yeah. Like you could definitely get away with him as minutes there. I'm trying to think from, okay, you know, brick and mortar now. Who are the guys? I'm kind of in your lane right now, John. Okay, who are the guys that I would want or that I think could play quality minutes at center, at power forward? Because the rest of the positions are just, they're fine.
Well, can you play Sims at the power forward?
You can. Ty, we actually talked about that on one of our shows when we talked about Sims, and Ty said that. Ty said he thinks Sims could be the 4.
Well, we saw what he did during the summer. I mean, hopefully that's not hoodie mellow footage. But
he
hit that jumper like he was hitting in the summer.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
When you think about it, the one thing I did say was I said they were prepping him, and this may have been. Like I said, been known for a minute. I said, why do they have him playing like a power forward? The stuff he's training to do is what power forwards do. Remember, I brought that up. And I said, he's playing like a power forward. I said, that has to be with intent. Like they had to instruct him to start working on these things. Maybe he's backing up Randle. That's what I said. Well, technically, he is backing him up into the wall. You know, in the first Greyhound in New York, you know, shout out to Julius, mad respect. Not my favorite player, but you know, you did New York very well. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I was just about to go there next. You know, like I said before, love-hate relationship with him. I loved it when they got him. I was defending him when the first year when he didn't play that well, and then we had the COVID year and he played fantastic. Then obviously we had the playoffs and then the follow-up season where he wasn't good and the whole thumbs down thing. And that's when I kind of soured on him.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of like, a lot of us have defended you and this is how you repay us by, thumbs downing us. And then last season he had he was coming on playing really, really well, and then the injury happens. And I feel like incomplete is probably, if I was him, that's how I would feel. Like I felt like I was getting everyone back on my side. I was playing well, and the injury happens, and now they're shipping me out. But I think he matured here. I think he obviously became an all NBA level player in New York. He always had the talent. I've been a fan of him since he played at Kentucky, so I've been watching him most of his career. And yeah, I always thought there was more there, and then he kind of proved that he could be that type of player. Just didn't prove it in the playoffs. To me, that's the one thing he has left to do. If he can prove to be an all NBA level player in the playoffs, then I think his story is still yet to be written. But I'm not going to miss him. Maybe I'll miss all the conversations we had surrounding him more than anything else.
They might switch to another person that we just got because
that's true. That's very possible.
I'm still
but
have something to talk about.
Yeah, me too.
But the one thing you can say about Julius is he played hard every game.
Every game.
And that's what Knick fans love. That
he did.
Knick fans love a guy who plays hard every game. So, good luck. I hope you play well in Minnesota, just not when you play the Knicks.
Minnesota's still got a decently stacked team as well. I mean, now you got Julius next to Gobert. You still got Ant. I mean, they're going to be a pretty solid team. I don't think they took a huge step backwards this way.
Guys, preseason basketball starts next Friday.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Good again.
I mean, I'll be in Germany, but
but it came around quick.
Yeah.
But this news, man, is just...
I missed it. Let's go. I'm ready.
No, I'm definitely feeling. I mean, this is even more of a great curiosity about. We have a team that has championship aspiration, which I think are legit aspirations. But now you are now incorporating a different type of player. So will there be some growing pains? The one thing we're counting on is the continuity of the players and the friendship and the kinship they had. Nova does lose a piece. Of the infinity stones, as they said, with Dante now gone, and now Julius had a great rapport with the locker, from what we could tell. Maybe we don't know all the stories, but we did seem like Julius was a nice guy. But now you have a guy coming in who they now have to learn, and he has to also learn. He has to learn what it is like to play in the Garden for 41 games and the expectations. And you're coming behind a guy who was a 3-time All-Star, 2-time All-NBA. That's a good section of the fan base love. They love Julius, and
this is not going to be that easy. I don't think it's going to be easy anyway. I mean, you've got two brand new pieces. OG's been here for half a year, all right, and Brunson's been here for a year and a half. This is not. These guys don't. I mean, Bridges and Brunson know each other, but even that, do they know each other in Tibbs' offense? There's going to be an adjustment period. It's not. I don't think they're going to come out of the gate hot. I think it's going to be a little while before they really get stuff like moving together.
I think the one good thing I'll say about this, though, if you have most of the Knick players seem like they play an egoless type of basketball. I think that's the one. I don't think they have one guy, and maybe it's because of Jalen Brunson being the captain on this team. They're a very bunch of humbled, hardworking guys. Like, you don't see anyone putting themselves before the team. I mean, that was the question about Julius coming back. Like, can you fit in? Can you come in and lose yourself inside the game in itself and commit to the team as opposed to committing to your numbers? When you look at a guy like Karl Anthony Towns, he has not been the most alpha personality we've seen. We've seen him more be some introverted kind of way, that's in a weird sort of way, I guess so to say. But on the basketball court, we don't see him being demonstrative against his teammates. We don't see him, saying, give me the damn ball. We don't see it. If it's being said, it's said off court. But I'm just saying. So most of the part what we've seen is Karl Anthony Towns has just been a basketball player sometimes to a detriment on the floor. Like he's just a guy some days when he needs to be the guy some days and show that tenacity. So
I get that.
he may come here. I think chemistry-wise is always going to be an adjustment period, but I think Bridges will be a seamless fit because he's just one of those ancillary players. He's not a demander of the ball. Like he's just going to come in and play a role. OG plays a role. Eric knows when OG got traded, I'm like sitting there going, what are the Knicks going to do when this guy, being that they're losing so much production off the bench, with they had 2 almost 20-point scorers, going out in the package. And I'm like, they're going to suffer offensively. Then this dude comes in and it's like he played on the Knicks for 10 years. It's like
Yeah.
That was kind of seamless, yeah.
And you watched him, and I was like, it made me shut up about the front office because I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, how the hell is this supposed to work? But meanwhile, this dude came in and he has the highest, I think, plus minus in the history of the NBA for a new player who came onto a new team. So somebody knew what was working that could work. Because I kept saying to Eric, I said, why wasn't RJ getting these easy dunks, these cuts to the
Right.
basket? I'm like, why is he not making these? And then I'm like, well, that almost led a little bit to the analytics in a sense that they saw the way it should work. And they knew this guy would work and fit in better than Emmanuel and RJ. And I was just blown away. So I'm thinking there's not been one move I can tell you that the Knicks have done recently where I'm going, the head scratcher, like that shit didn't work. I don't. When have you seen it? Everything they put together.
Seems like it working. And
Looks like
what am I most vocal about? Let's get ourselves a center. We need a center. There's no way this title, hope's going to really happen without a center. We have a real center now. But yes, I have the same concerns you have. Is he ready for New York? Because there's a lot of pressure here. Now you're back home. Now you're going to hear it in both ears. You know what I mean? From everybody on the East Coast. Are you going to be the man? And his first statement better be good after 3 dots. I'll tell you that right now.
He may have needed New York more than he knew. Because I'm thinking along the lines that this might be, because we know what happens. This very well could be. I mentioned I think a few weeks ago. I was comparing the trade of, and we all discussed it. It was the trade that brought Marcus Wire to Detroit for Adrian Dantley. The fit of a player, albeit that was great on your team and gave you the production. They just were not a chemistry fitting person or player on your team. That's why he went Exodus. They brought back another guy who was lights out scorer. Mark White was no joke to be had. However, he just fit
the Bush trade.
He fit in so much better. He was friends with Isaiah, and it worked. We are seeing a similar thing here with Julius Randle and Karl Anthony Towns. There's a swap of talent, kind of equal in numbers. It's not like you got a big fall off. One is more of efficient outside shooter, clearly with Towns. But now you got a guy you're bringing in that may be just the better fit, albeit in an equal of talent and scoring and production. And that might be what you're going to see. Because I know a lot of people say Julius playing a 5. And there's certain things like I look over when I'm thinking about basketball, and I'm looking at him, how he's built. That was the one thing that was concerning me. He's a very bulky, short arm. Let me get that check. Let me get that check. If y'all know what I'm talking about, let me get the check. He got the alligator. He's like, let me get the check. He almost got it. He just doesn't have that, because now you got the bad shoulder now. So who is he? Yeah. He's going to come and he's snatching boards?
Yeah, he wasn't going to be a center with that shoulder.
Yeah.
That's his create space shoulder.
Yeah, and you're looking at Weber. Remember Chris Weber, a dynamic player. Love watching Weber play. But he never did get rid of that shoulder lean. Not the hip-hop song, but the shoulder lean. He really had that shoulder lean where you could just see where the dislocation it was always there. That, to me, is the biggest question mark about Julius. You have a physical player, because we've seen Derrick Rose, shout out to him, retire. He was just the ultimate athletic specimen. And then you asked him to now go change his game, and it took him years to figure out how he could be one of the better players on the floor, but not doing what he did that was special. Are we going to believe that Julius Randle at this age with health concerns of his shoulder is going to stop burrowing into people. I don't believe that. I think he's going to.
That would ruin his game. If he can't do that, he's not going to be the player that you need him to be. If he favors that shoulder, or if he tries to avoid contact on that shoulder, he's not the guy. He's not the same guy. That's a huge part of his game, and that worried me that he wasn't going to come back the same on that.
Yeah,
So,
it's going to go through a period of test. He's going to be testing it while he plays, right? Like that's what's going to happen, and guys are going to test him on it. Like they're going to, try and get him to lean that way, or try and get him to force him that way to test the shoulder. That's just part of sport. Yeah, you always try to find the disadvantage, especially for a player like that who, let's be honest, when he's right, according to the stats, he was one of the top 15 players in the league 2 out of the last 3 seasons. So the Towns thing, like you guys were saying, I'm there with you. I definitely don't know what to expect. I don't expect a guy to get traded and then be all happy, like, yay, I'm going to the Knicks. Like he built a life in Minnesota. He, made connections. Yeah, but God, he made connections there, people there, friends there. He built a life. That's where he lived most of the time. So it's, it's tough when that happens. Plus, they drafted him, so now they're saying we don't want you anymore. Like that's another thing you got to swallow. They drafted him first overall, and now they're saying, well, thanks, but no thanks. We don't we don't want you anymore. I mean, that's a lot to take. These guys have big egos, so that's a lot to take when you get traded. It is part of the business. I do think eventually he's going to be okay, but I just read a quote and I was trying to find it again, but it disappeared. I remember they were asking him about years ago. This was years ago, asking him about, growing up in this area, who his favorite players were. He did mention Ewing. He did mention Patrick Ewing was his favorite player. Mm-hmm. So, maybe we get a little, Ewing and him kind of reconnect, and maybe he can get more out of him. I don't know. I would have hired Patrick as a coach or a consultant already.
Mm-hmm. But you know what? I'm thinking, did Mark Bryant, was he a coach at one point on Minnesota? I saw a list of teams he was coaching prior to coming to as a big man coach. Was it Minnesota his last stop, which would be some more writing on the wall that we would have never thought about?
I remember him as a player. Do you remember him as a player?
Absolutely. Right. He was a short dude, but he was strong as a damn ox, man.
Yeah, he was a beast.
He was Portland Trailblazers, I think.
Yep, Portland. He never did coach Minnesota.
Okay. I was wondering about that because I'm like, maybe that's why they brought in the big man coach. I was like, was that the connect? I know they gave a short list of guys and players he worked with recently, but I couldn't recall the teams actually.
I think you replaced a lot of what Hartenstein did with the Towns trade. You get a lot of that high post pass.
You steroid.
I think you really, that part of the trade I really like. I just really hope this kid is ready for New York. I hope his work ethic is right. I hope, like you said, that it's not just words that him and Tibbs have healed or whatever it was, their relationship. And that he's ready because he's going to face scrutiny that he never did in the one newspaper town of Minnesota.
Well, I think that's the thing I always tell people about when players, and you can see a little bit of the awareness too, like when we talk about during the time when Julius was first signed, obviously we was at the KD and Kyrie. Mm-hmm. Those were the fish at the time, the whales or whatever you want to say it. They purposely didn't choose New York. I mean, at least we know Kyrie didn't because, well, they chose a part of New York, but not the Knicks, because they realized the kind of the kind of BS you can never get away with as a Knick, unless that you're going to be completely slammed and put on the burner and everything else. I just think that the reputation of New York is known by all the players in the NBA. That if you come here with the check you make and you want to stink up the joint, I don't think you're going to be great. You're not going to feel very well about yourself by the time your career is done. No. So I just think we've seen it with Dennis Smith Jr. There's a certain mindset, when you come here that whatever you were getting away with in any other city, like we see a guy like LeBron James, and I laughed at Tracy Morgan. He was on the roommate show that time. He goes, LeBron can't play here. and Jalen Brunson looked at him like, what do you mean? He can't play here. This is a Mecca. He can't play here. And you do start, I got what Tracy meant. Because he's like, you can't be going over here drinking wine on the court in New York while you're on the bench. Are you crazy? They would throw the wine bottles at you when you leave out because they're just not. I don't know how Julius even lasted here after the thumbs down because that shows his mental toughness because this is not the place that you do that stuff. And I don't know Karl Anthony Towns, if those dots might be like, holy.
Yeah.
We got to get my bag together because this is not going to be.
You better come up with a hell of a quote after the ... That doesn't bode well.
Stop! You're reading into this.
Dude,
this isn't TMZ. We're not.
If
We're
it's
not.
the age of
This is
social
Rihanna.
media and
What
you
are we
don't look
doing?
excited for where you're going, do you think New York is going to embrace that right off the bat? That you don't look excited, that you're not like, wow, I'm coming home. I can't wait. Who doesn't do that?
That's what I was saying. You don't know where. First of all, we don't know where he was. Second of all, you don't know his mindset.
True. It's Friday night and everything, and it is the off season. He could be anywhere.
You don't know his
That's
mindset.
true.
You have no idea where his head was at. He didn't ask for a trade. He didn't say I want to get traded.
Yeah, but
All this stuff, like I said, they drafted him. He was their best player probably until last year. So he built all of this. I don't know, man. I saw that and I was just like, he's just in shock. That's my thing. I would be too. I'd have been like, oh damn, like I just got traded. Like,
well, he could be doing an RJ Barrett, during when getting drafted. I'm a Knick, like I can't believe I'm a Knick. Also, like those guys were really him just being shocked.
I guess he could. That could be it.
Maybe he's thinking all the things you guys said. Like, crap, I'm going home. Like this is different now. People are gonna be following my every move, and
like know where he's at.
I can't just hide away in Minnesota, which is technically a football town.
Yeah,
when the Vikings are playing, they are not. They don't care about anything else. So
this is
the world.
This is his world. His world is about to change.
Oh yeah,
basically.
A huge change.
Migration from Minnesota, but is the migration into arguably, as everyone says, the heaviest jersey in all of sports. I'm not even talking like just basketball. When you wear this Knick uniform, you have a hellified drought that's sitting, and now you're coming into a Knick, a fandom that has aspirations and believe they are title contenders, which, like I said, is legit. Given the right breaks, the Knicks are one of the top 4 or 5 teams favorite to win the NBA title, something that we never thought we would be saying, something that only Mr. Greenberg, shout out to him, actually witnessed amongst the rest of us. The Knicks are on a cusp of possibly, and it's hard for me sometimes to think that they're on the cusp of maybe winning a title. Now, Karl Anthony Towns is going from a team with some expectations. They finally got back on the map. Teams had them favored as, they were number 1 team last year. So you had a bunch of players that, that are just starting to feel a little bit of the flame, and nor in Minnesota will they ever get any pressure. They're not a pressure town. Now he's like, oh, damn, I'm going to the Apple. That's all more rotten than Apple. There's more rotten apple than Apple. And I'm coming here and I'm going to be on the biggest stage, maybe the biggest stage in the world, because Madison Square Garden is just that. And you happen to be playing on the biggest stage in sports, that when you are great, the fan base is ravenous. And when you're terrible, they're just as ravenous. So it's like you
did say he was going to change the game. He did.
You don't have to.
Don't have to. Yeah.
He did make that comment just this past year.
He did.
This summer, he said that I'm going to change the game. So
I'm going to change the game.
If you do it here,
right. He can. Now let me tell you, whoever gets that first thing in New York.
If the Knicks win a title this year with him just getting here, that difference was like he was the key. That was the difference.
The 5.
That was
Take on
different.
Embiid, go through him, and then go through KP. And
He played well
get
against
to this
Jokic.
title.
He played well against Jokic. He did.
Good,
Against Embiid also.
Yeah.
because that's who
Yeah.
you might see out east. Either that or it's out west, or you're going to see OKC, one or the other.
That's the first fight you ever saw Karl Anthony Towns in was with Embiid. I mean, granted, we don't know if somebody actually landed a punch. It looked like more like a fingernail scratching kind of mess. But we didn't think Karl Towns had it in him to be that kind of dude, but he proved that he had that in him. They're going to need. He does present a lot of problems when I think about just from a basketball standpoint. We if he is tough, if he can be tough, that the Knicks are the most dangerous team in the NBA. If he can be tough, he can be tough.
It's
Eric,
weird. Yes.
Eric, I'm curious about this. Did you look up Randle's reaction to the trade?
I haven't seen anything yet from him or anyone asking questions, like anyone got in touch with him or got a statement from him or his agent. I haven't seen anything like that.
Nothing. Okay.
Yet. No.
I just think they did him. I hate to say this because I'm such a Knicks fan, and I'm not the biggest Randle fan, but they did him a little dirty. You don't have him go out and dig Earl Monroe's court and put your name.
2 days ago, right? 2-3
And
days
then all of a
ago.
sudden, like, you know what? By the way, the Greyhound is open in the Port Authority.
Yeah.
Just so you go get your bags. I just didn't like that. I mean, maybe hopefully he was aware and went along with it because I even posted on our page about making footprints both off and on the court. I thought it was a beautiful thing, him donating that money to Knicks legend, Monroe, and the connection. And him and Thibs are out there with the shovel. Starks is campaigning and championing him on for what he did, and all of a sudden they're like, all right, now that that's over, in true to your fashion, we got to get you up out of here now. We got to box you up. We're going to help you all. Whatever you need. But you're out of here, buddy. It's kind of dastardly. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It's kind of dastardly.
And you're going to the coldest place on the planet.
Timing is everything for me in a lot of ways, and I'd find that to be a little bit. I don't know.
That's
5 years ago, I would have been like jumping up and down at this trade. I would have been much more excited about it 5 years ago than I am now.
I'm indifferent about it now.
Well, you say that, but then in 20 minutes ago, you said that maybe he's a more mature Towns at this point. So
no, I'm just saying, but that's why, right? Like I've seen, to me, he's gotten more weird, and I'm not even talking about his basketball. He's just gotten more weird as the time has gone on. So.
True.
I don't know. Like, again, I started this by saying talent-wise, it's a no-brainer for me. Like, this guy is loaded with talent.
Yeah.
He's an inside-out player. He, for some reason, his rebounds have gone down, but that's because they got Gobert.
Yeah,
like
of course.
when he's the key guy, he averages around 12 a game. Like, he's an elite player skill-wise. But yeah, it's always that thing. Like, but like he's an elite player, but there's always the but when you're talking about him. And that's the part that I'm worried about. Now, again, he's coming back here to play for a coach he played for when he was younger. He knows this coach. He knows what the coach is going to ask him to do. He's playing for a team now that are, let's be honest, they're a gritty team. They're a bunch of guys who fight, scrap, claw. He's got to buy into that. Like, there's a lot of things he's going to have to buy into. Yeah. And I mean, we saw it happen. Like, we saw it happen with Charles Smith when he came here. He came into that team and he started to change a little. He looked kind of weird doing it, but he did make the attempt, the effort. So we've seen this happen in the past when a player comes from another team and the team they already there has such a good culture that they have no choice but to join it and ride along. And I'm hoping that's what's going to happen here. Like, that's my hope. My hope is that he comes here, he sees it as an opportunity to shake that label and assert himself in his hometown, all that other stuff.
That'd be great.
That's my hope.
That would be great.
Yeah, that's my hope. But again, on talent alone, yeah, I would have done this trade. And I think Julius is tremendously talented, but he's not this guy.
No.
Not this
True.
guy.
And I'm not a fan of either one of these guys, but Carl Towns is the better talent.
Yeah.
I don't you know, I don't know. I guess it's such a hard question because you really got to wonder if you had a gun to your head, which one would you pick and believe has the ability come playoff time to be mentally stronger than the other one?
Well, Towns, because I've seen it.
Yeah. See that's the question. Gun to the head.
Yeah.
Who do you trust mentally more in times where you're gonna? I said about Mitch. I like Mitch. I always, he's a homegrown. Always gonna love those dudes. However, Mitch is a liability in any big game because he can't hit free throws. The minute you can't hit free throws, you negate whatever great equity he builds up for you in a game of getting rebounds and block shots and switching. He's a liability down the last 2 minutes if you're in a tight game. If this was a championship game 7, what I want them to do with Mitchell Robinson is drive him completely away from the arena because I don't want no one hacking him and we need 3 points. Yeah. Well, we're down 2 points. The hell if I want him in the damn game. Why? So, that's not saying maybe he hits him. Maybe he's clutching up to hit him, but do you really want to trust that? No. I just think that towards the end of the game, he's a negated player. So as much as we put a great importance on him, in a clutch game, he is the one player I would never want on the floor with me because unless it's a defensive stop. Clearly on one side of the ball, if you need a block or you need someone to switch out and it's a game-winning shot that can happen, yeah, you want him in those scenarios, but that becomes a situational player. But a full-time player that you're going to give a lot of money to and invest in that can put 35 minutes on the floor, you want him to be able to hit the big shots down the stretch or miss one, but have some confidence that they shoot above 40% from the free throw line.
Right. And how long do we have Towns for?
He signed for 4 more years after this one, I believe, and he's a super max. So
that's
okay.
So he's going nowhere. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because Brunson. His and Brunson contract will run together.
That's a real window at this point. Then, yeah, that's
4 years.
Yeah.
4 years.
This is the move.
This is the move.
Yeah.
I don't see them. Well, they can make another move, but I want to show calendar restrictions. You shoot off one of those guys like an OG or whatever down the line. But right now, this is the Knicks championship caliber team.
Yep, this is it.
Wow, I didn't expect.
Like I said, preseason starts next Friday.
Crazy.
Media day is Monday. So, Ty, if you and Joe are going to do a show, it'd be without me. But you guys, definitely do that show. I want you guys to get that one in because I'm sure there's definitely going to be a lot of fun parts about Media Day now.
Way different story now.
Yeah. I'll be here for Media Day. I'll hear Monday, but the show is Wednesday, so I'll be gone by then. So you guys definitely do that show.
I'm still in shock. I'm like I said, wow.
I am too, dude. Like this is.
I want to see that poll that we talked about this afternoon. The one that Craig showed, the one that had us in 6th or 7th or something like that in the league because Mitchell Robinson was hurt to start the season.
The Eastern Conference projection.
Yeah, the odds thing. I wonder if that just got
obliterated
now.
They will have us at least at 2.
Yeah.
And then there might be some argument, but like I said, you got to give the Tips some respect because they won the title. But I think if you look at even wise, my question only for the Knicks is their defensive prowess adding Towns because I don't think he's not that Julius was any great defender over the last 3 years, but Towns is capable, much like we said about Julius, he's capable of playing defense. Well, Towns could be a very interesting, great center because he could give you 24, 10, and 2 blocks. He can really give you that if he's invested in playing that kind of defense at the 5. He had defense. Came out of Kentucky and then came into Minnesota being drafted. He was very well capable of being a 1.5 block dude. Like you said, he gives you what Hartenstein gives you, but on a steroid level.
Yep.
Now you got this dude out here Because I always tell people they negated Hartenstein like he was whatever. Isaiah Hartenstein was a huge part of why the Knicks were great.
Absolutely.
Especially in the playoffs.
Now
Yes.
he played,
Yes.
and you're getting a guy like Karl Anthony Towns very capable of replicating what, like you said, what iHeart did on 10. So now you got the mobility. You know, Bob Greenberg brought up early, you know, a good point. It is about the 4 spot. You know, who do you deem to be that guy at the 4? You know, now he has to be a strong rebounder, clearly. You know,
I'm down for a check.
he's got to be the defense. OG does help out a guy like Towns. Don't get me wrong. If OG next to you and you're the 5, and he's the 4, defensively, that's an awesome. You're not kidding nothing on the wing. So that's what Towns would just have to help at the most. That's some interesting. I mean, the Knicks. When I get back and think about this, I'm going to probably be a little bit more excited than I am because they're just concentrating on it being Towns. But when you think about the lineups that can happen now,
yeah, if you play hard at the 3, you may make up for OG's lack of rebounding. I mean, you could be.
I'd go back to I'd probably go with Towns, Chua, and then Bridges, Anunoby, and Randle and Brunson, and bring Hart off the bench.
I like that. I like
That's
that. That's my
do.
preferred lineup as well.
Hart, McBride.
But if you're lacking in rebounding, you could always swap that out and then throw OG at the 4 and throw Hart in the game at that point in time.
I think you need some grit. I think you need a grittier player next to Towns, and Achua is that kind of a player. So if you have someone like that in there, I think that only benefits him. I want to read something. Ramona Shelburne tweeted something about Randle. She said that Julius Randle spent the summer rehabilitating from season-ending shoulder surgery. He and the Knicks had not made progress on a contract extension this summer, essentially signaling the Knicks' willingness to trade him. Talks between the teams had taken place all summer, but picked up steam in the last few days when Charlotte was brought in as a third team. So,
wait,
Charlotte. Well, we still don't know what the final trade is, and the Knicks are the Knicks have to make up $8.8 million somehow. So the belief is that Charlotte is that team that's going to give the extra player. Who that is, I don't know.
Maybe Nick Richardson. Maybe Nick Richardson. It'd probably be Nick Richardson. Well, do they? Well, I don't know. You probably wouldn't know, but do the Knicks got to take in another player? Because that would be the Richardson deal. Because he would be the center that they've been coveting.
I think I think they have to make it up.
They have to make up.
So that I think whoever it is would be going to Minnesota. They'd be going to Minnesota.
But what compensation would
the Knicks would be sending them
something?
What that is, I don't know.
Yeah,
well, they probably will be sending a player, or I mean, they don't got no more damn picks, Harley, unless they're giving them Washington's pick.
Let's see.
Don't we have the Bucks pick or no?
The Bucks pick we still have, I think.
Let's see.
You ever seen the Knicks? Knicks made a lot of damn moves over the last year.
Like Cody Martin. I mean, Cody Martin makes $8 million. That would do it right then and there.
Who?
Cody Martin.
Yeah, he would.
Yeah,
that would be enough.
What incentivizes Charlotte to make the trade?
Pick.
Yeah, they're getting something in return, and I mean, I know they signed him to a decent contract, but what the hell has he done? So. I mean, they're paying $8 million for 7 points, 4 rebounds, 38% from the field.
I was born the wrong height, man. I need to.
You just have to be tall. You don't have to be
7 points. Oh my god.
Well, when they started handing out specialist jobs, that's when the NBA started overpaying people.
Yeah, that's
but when you're making more millions than you are giving points. I mean, really? Oh my god.
Yeah, you don't got to yell stick 'em up at that point. You've robbed the whole stage.
Oh, you absolutely backed it up the Brinks truck and just filled it up with your own.
It's amazing.
Ridiculous.
This is
It's a disgusting industry right now.
Oh, it really is. My God, I did that.
This should be interesting. Who does go? Well, yeah, you're probably right. It's Cody Martin now. I guess if
Yeah, I mean that's the guy right now who I see has,
so
has the contract that would make it work. But again, they might find to do it a different way. That just Charlotte was the team that was interested in the third, or interested in being the third team. So clearly, they have something they felt like they can give up as part of the deal. So
I don't think they'd miss Cody Martin.
no, like if that's what I mean, like his contract is, perfect. So yeah, Towns is also a Yankee fan. Like he identifies with New York. So we'll see. We'll see if New York. I guess the question now is New York going to identify with him.
Great question.
This should be. This just put a whole. I would have never. But this is what we got to look at this front office. They always do this. Like I know us as Knicks fans are so used to having information leaked and botched trade scenarios or whatever. You never know what the hell this team.
Never see it coming, right? It's crazy.
Who had in one season, in a year, the Knicks trading and getting OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, and Karl Anthony Towns, while keeping still their best player for now in Jalen Brunson. Yeah. No one, if you had it on your bingo card, you've been smoking the pipe. There's no one, there's not a person alive that, even Miss Cleo, we know she was fake. So we know that there's no one that was able to foresee this coming from the New York Knicks, that they basically made an all-star level team in one season, less than a season. We're talking months.
Yeah.
I think the Bridges trade was the most surprising to me, but only because he was on the Nets.
Absolutely.
I never thought the Nets would trade with the Knicks.
I never saw that coming. So. Never, ever. We were talking about Bridges, like what do the Knicks need? Mikal Bridges, you gonna get him? Hell no. The Nets are never trading him.
Yep.
And then once they got OG, you were like, well, they really don't need him now, right? Like,
yeah. And you would have never saw it.
Best wing duo in the entire NBA right now.
Defensively, yes. There's not a better two guys on the perimeter than those two.
They are right now the Paul George and Kawhi Leonard of this time. Might say a little bit light because both those guys are great.
Can Boston work? I can't wait for this.
Well, you know what? Let me tell you. The one reason why I look at Boston, I always thought the difference in Boston was KP. And Derek White is one of those players. I mean, don't disrespect Drew Holiday, his big impact. But when you look at the dynamic of who won MVP, it was Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown's a really good player. Obviously, he's MVP of the finals. Enough respect. But we know that dude and both him and Tatum have had issues sometimes showing up in moments. Mm-hmm. And the thing with Brown is Brown doesn't have a left hand. He was turning over the ball like apple turnovers and falls. He's a turnover machine. Now you're sticking two great wing players, and you might be just saying, hey, let Tatum figure out he can beat us. You can really do that because KP to me was the difference because when they beat the Knicks, it was KP shooting from the arc. And the Knicks having no answer for any guy that had to go out there and guard him, which I would have put a smaller player on if it was me. I wouldn't have put a center trying to go chase him because we don't have one of those that could do that. But I'd at least crowd his legs or whatever, or make him have to work off the dribble with that shot. But my point is that the Knicks now have certain guys that can bother their best players. I'm not saying you're going to prevent them, but if you can take Brown out and say you have two guys beat me, and granted Tatum is a dynamic talent. I just don't think he always is that talent to a high echelon. Whereas with the Knicks, I don't know who you're going to take away. Who the hell are you going to take away right now? You're going to try to double Karl Anthony Towns? Bridges has proven that he can be a player. Not that he was the man in Brooklyn, but
he was.
He was the man on the team at one point. Yeah. You got OG is the one guy that you look at now and go, well, he might be the utility player, but he's shooting 40% from the three, and he activates something on the other end of the floor that most guys can't do. He's just a hell of a defender
for 50 games.
For 50 games, you got Band-Aids and some Advil after a while, but other than that, I mean, the Knicks is a whole different team.
Yeah, man. It's gonna be interesting. It's definitely gonna be interesting. But I'm glad we did this. I'm glad we hopped on and talked about this for real quick, and got out there. We had a pretty good amount of people watching at one point, so it was a good thing to pop on. People wanted to hear what we had to say, which in my eyes, that's a good thing.
That's very good. Very good thing.
So, John, thanks for jumping on.
Yes,
Gentlemen, it was a pleasure again.
Very nice to have you on.
Should be fun.
Craig actually fell asleep, but that's what we heard before. He was snoring.
Is that what that was?
Yes. So thank you, Craig, for hopping on and falling asleep on air.
Youngest guy on the team and still falling asleep at the wheel, huh? All right, buddy.
I just want to thank him for covering up his nipples because nobody wanted to see all that. Thank you.
All right, so just a quick programming note. Again, I will not be on the show next week that Ty and Joe are doing about Media Day. I will be in Germany. I fly to Germany on Tuesday night, and I'm there from Wednesday to Wednesday. So I'll be there for a full week. Nice. So I won't be on the show for a few weeks, but you guys are in very capable hands with Ty and Joe. I have no problem. I'm going to be interesting. I'm going to watch it back. I'm going to watch the show back after the fact and see how you guys are. But have a great show. Yeah. And I hope you guys talk. I hope Media Day is amazing. I really do.
Should be crazy.
God, yes.
So
any closing thoughts?
What's that?
Is there any closing thoughts?
Welcome, Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah.
You will become Black Panther, not Kitty Cat. There's no kitty cats in New York. You better become the Black Panther. That's what I'm gonna tell you. You want you better get that Lord.
Yes.
Shuri and get you that armored suit, like the Falcon. What was his name? The Falcon.
Yeah. The talent, all I'll say is this: play to your talent and play as hard as you can, and people will love you. That's it. That's all you need. We'll love you if you do all those things.
That's all it is.
Because that's what we want. That's what Knicks fans love. That's what we respect. So, and don't make excuses. That's the third part. Probably don't make excuses.
Mm-hmm.
If you suck, you suck. You say I sucked, and keep it moving.
Do what Jalen Brunson did. That's all. If you ever want to know what a Knicks fan, as a Knicks player, what you should do, everything you see Jalen Brunson did. Be humble. Be hardworking. Those things have worked so well for him. Just saying, "Hey, I sucked tonight."
True.
You guys are like, yeah, you did suck. But we feel we're still riding with you. That's all we want to hear is that you knew you sucked because we knew it. That's all we want to know.
Don't play fingers. Yep. I agree.
And you got to do better. These are all these little cliche things that keep New Yorkers off your back because we're like, well, Brunson's our dude. He understands he's going to bring it next game. And that's all we ask. Bring a better effort the next game when you suck the first game. That's all. That's
true. All right. So happy Saturday, everyone. It's Saturday morning. Yes, thanks for riding with us. For Ty, John, I'm Eric. You're watching All Nicked Up. See you next time.